I'm Erica Mail, and I'm a physiotherapist working with dancers in Vancouver, Canada. And today I'm here with Austin, and we're going to talk a little bit about oversplits. So these have become really popular, really trendy in the last little while, probably partly due to social media, YouTube videos, all sorts of things. They've almost become a mandatory thing in some of the dance world, although the safety of them has often been questioned. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about when it might be appropriate for some of your dancers to be doing some overstretching, and more importantly, the dancers who really should not be doing overstretching. So if you have a dancer who you know has hypermobile joints, overstretching is really not often appropriate for them. They are going to just be sitting in their joints and actually stretching joint capsules and joint ligaments if they're going into these stretches. And oftentimes this is what can lead to sort of injuries and some pretty serious injuries in dancers. So these are the group of dancers who probably want to stay away from a lot of overstretching, and especially passive overstretching. If you're doing any sort of overstretch with a dancer who does have any sort of joint hypermobility, it really needs to be an active stretch. There needs to be an element of dynamic muscle controlled stretching in it and no sort of passive stretching. The other group of dancers who you're probably not really wanting to do a lot of overstretching with are your dancers who maybe fall into the mobility restricted category. So these are the dancers where their restrictions may be coming from fascial system, from dural systems, from something other than muscles. So again, these dancers shouldn't really be practicing oversplits. A lot of times these dancers aren't going to be anywhere close to even getting into flat splits, let alone oversplits, so it may not be a concern, but just something to be aware of. So the dancers that you're looking at potentially working on overstretching or oversplits with are your dancers who are not hypermobile, who are not mobility restricted, but who have appropriate strength and control to then be able to go into some sort of more mobility positions. So again, really, really key that they have strength and control. So what we're going to do is take you through a little bit of progression of how you can check to see if your dancers may be ready to progress on to the next levels. Again, we're concerned about the joints themselves, the ligaments that attach to the joints, and really making sure that we're actually stretching muscles and not just hanging into these stretching positions and potentially stretching things we don't want to be stretching. So we are going to do a few sort of basic checks. So we're going to come, and first of all, we're going to get Austin to come into her front split. So if you just come into your front splits here, we want her to be fairly square in this position. I want her to have contact with the ground. I really don't want her hanging in the splits. Again, we're putting pressure through joints if she's hanging and not in control. So we can just test if she has control here by getting her to lift her hands off the ground. She doesn't move at all. She looks fabulous. Everything's fine. Then we can also get her to just bend up that back leg there. She can bend it. It stays sort of at a nice angle. It's not turning in. She's not opening up through that hip, sorry, making her open up. So we're pretty happy with that position there, toes pointing up towards the ceiling. Let that one come back down. Another little test that we can do with her there is if you just bring your arms up overhead and go back into a little bit of an extension for me there. Again, she has really great control. She's not falling over. She's not rolling side to side. We don't see any twisting through the hips, anything like that. So I'm quite happy with her control in this position. She's not having any pain or discomfort, and so we're able to then sort of progress her and add a little bit more of sort of an oversplit in this position. So again, you want to do this really slowly and progressively. You don't want to stick somebody's leg up on a big chair or a box or something that's feet off the ground. You want to start them slowly and gradually. So we're using yoga blocks here because we can progressively stack them to sort of get an increase in mobility there. Fabulous. And how does that feel there? Good, and we can see that she still has really great contact in through her legs. Both her back leg and her front leg are still in contact with the ground. So there's no sort of hanging. We don't see a lot of daylight escaping through there. She can still lift her arms off and balance there, no problem. Fabulous. And then just bring your arms up overhead, go back into your layback, and again, not falling over. She has really great control. And if you come back down and just do your little knee bend up, and again, toes still pointing up towards the ceiling. So happy with this, we can progress her on. Perfect. So again, I'm really happy with the contact she has there. She's not sitting in that position. She's not hanging. She can still take her arms off. Beautiful balance. She can come up, go into her extension. She's not falling over. She can bring her hands back down. Just bend your back knee up. Perfect. And let that relax. Again, quite happy with this progression. Good. So again, she's in quite a nice position here. We still see contact through the front leg. We're seeing less contact obviously through the front leg as it gets higher up, but I can still see some contact through the front leg. Her whole back leg is still on the ground, so she's not lifting up through the pelvis. She's still in a nice position there. She can bring her fingers off the ground. She's not going to fall over. She can go into a little bit of an extension there and then come back up, fingertips back down, and then she can bend her back leg. Now, I'm not sure if you can see on the camera, but she's starting to come just a tiny bit off to the side as she bends up. So still not bad, but she's not pointing quite as directly towards the ceiling as she was initially. So we may be getting to the limit of where her mobility is. So we'll try one more block and see what happens. And in this position, you can now start to see that she's actually hanging in the air there a little bit. So I don't know if you can see that. Just move your, yeah, perfect, thank you. So you can see that she's not getting as good contact through that front leg on the ground. So she's actually starting to hang a little bit through the front hip there. And so I'm a little bit less happy about this position, but we're just going to do a couple of tests and see what happens. So can you take your arms off and balance there? So she's still not too bad. And then bring arms up overhead and see if you can go back. Good, and coming back up. So again, she's a little bit more unstable, not quite as solid in that position, and then just try and bend that back leg. And again, I'm not sure if you can see that on the camera angle, but she's coming quite a bit more. So this is definitely the limit of where I would have her. I would probably even bring her down to 3 blocks to actually really work on that mobility, but she's kind of somewhere right in between those 3 and 4 blocks. And again, I wouldn't be progressing her on to any more than this because we're starting to see signs of her losing control in through there, and we really want her to be in control the whole time so that we're protecting her joints while she's working on this muscle flexibility.